President Obama set to deliver his State of the Union address on Capitol Hill tonight. Undoubtedly, he will make promises to the American people. Here's one from last year on our presence in Afghanistan. Listen.
Tonight, I can announce that over the next year, another 34,000 American troops will come home from Afghanistan. This drawdown will continue, and by the end of next year, our war in Afghanistan will be over.
From last year, it appears to be a promise kept. Joining us now to talk about some of the other promises President Obama has made and whether or not he's keeping them, Joe Trippi, a former Howard Dean campaign manager and a Fox News contributor, and Ed Rollins, former national campaign director for President Reagan in 1984, also a Fox News contributor. We went back and looked at last year's speech, and, you know, these things are just a laundry list of presidential promises, and I'm not singling out President Obama. Every president does them. But in general, isn't that what these things are, Joe, is just kind of a bunch of promises which may or may not be kept?
Well, no. Well, many of them are promises like the one you just showed us, John. But a lot of them are request. You know, I want laws passed by Congress. I call on Congress to do this. I call on Congress to do that. And in that, look, the president, I think, had something like 42 different either promises or requests of Congress. It looks like maybe in the last speech, maybe 2 or 3 actually happened, actually got passed through the partisan polarization of both the Senate and the House. So, he clearly didn't get many of them done, whether they were promises or requests of Congress. And I don't think he's going to get much that he calls for in this one done either, given how polarized Washington is.
Here's one from last year, Ed. He said he wanted to establish 18 of these sort of high-tech manufacturing zones in the country. 3 of them would be established by the White House under executive order, a controversial issue at the moment. He wanted Congress to establish the other 15. Listen to what he said.
Tonight, I'm announcing the launch of 3 more of these manufacturing hubs, where businesses will partner with the Department of Defense and Energy to turn regions left behind by globalization into global centers of high-tech jobs.
Well, here's the update. The White House has announced the selection of a headquarters for one of those institutes. They did that earlier this month. Competition for the other 2 to be selected in the coming weeks. Congress has not moved any legislation on the other 15 that he wants. I guess you could say that's a promise sort of in progress. Ed, what do you think?
Well, here's the problem the president has, and I'm sympathetic to him as a partisan Republican can be. A year ago, he was doing his victory lap. He had just won re-election, and I think that people were hopeful that there was going to be an agenda. We now sit with a wasted year. There's not a single thing other than a failed rollout of Obamacare that this president has done. He's got record low approval ratings, both on his performance level and his job performance. So my sense today is that he's very similar to where George W. Bush was at this point in his presidency. There's a fatigue, and I think Democrats and Republicans both are looking to the future, and not with him as the leadership. And I think to a certain extent, he's going to have a very, very hard time making anything happen. He's not going to be a factor in these midterm elections, and if he is, it's going to be a negative factor. And Joe is a great strategist. You wouldn't want to bring the president in other than do a fundraiser for any of your candidates in these marginal Senate races or what have you.
Well, talk about a year wasted. One of the things he promised last year was a tax code overhaul. Let me play that soundbite.
Now is our best chance for bipartisan, comprehensive tax reform that encourages job creation and helps bring down the deficit. A tax code that lowers incentives to move jobs overseas and lowers tax rates for businesses and manufacturers that are creating jobs right here in the United States of America.
Well, any reform of the tax code that rewards companies who build, keep jobs here in America has not happened, and tax code overhaul, the prospects of that seem to be fading, Joe.
I don't think there's any chance. I mean, the key word there was our best chance at bipartisan overhaul. There's not going to be any bipartisan overhaul of anything. I mean, even immigration reform may not actually happen when there's actually reasons for both parties to come together to do something. Not clear that's going to happen. I'm sure we'll hear about that in the speech tonight. But I agree a lot with what Ed has said. He clearly doesn't have much opportunity here in any speech he gives today to accomplish much and I agree with what Ed said, that when you look at the midterms in November, he's right. I would want him to be involved in fundraising, sending emails out, maybe things like that. But you're not going to see a whole lot from Democrats actually wanting him in their districts or wanting his presence. They're gonna want to run local campaigns and not nationalize it with his presence.
I just have 30 seconds left, but Ed, give me 15 seconds of what you think he should say that would, unite the country, get the Congress on his side, and move things forward.
Well, obviously that's a very difficult task, and we're not even touching on the foreign policy disasters. But I think the reality is that he has to basically say, I'm going to do something bipartisan. I'm going to, whether it was, I don't think he can do the tax reform now, but he probably could have a year ago if he would have basically given up some premises. I mean, the bottom line is Republicans and Democrats came together and put through a budget proposal for the first time and passed it. So there are some things, if you are willing to give up on some of the issues that you care deeply about and let Republicans have a place at the table.
All right. Real quickly, Joe.
I don't think there's a whole lot he can say to bring people together at this point. I think he's gonna try to frame the debate, put out a bunch of items he wants Congress to act on. Congress won't act on them, and that'll be the fight that lays out through November. Whether it works or not, I don't know, but that's what I think he's.
And State of the Unions don't mean what they used to. I mean, they're basically just one more event in between Super Bowls and Grammys and all the rest of it. They used to be a very big event. They're no longer a big event.
All right.
I agree.
Joe Trippi, Ed Rollins.
Thank you.
Thank you both for your insights. Our